hello. I want to thank Ms. Ruth Veales, from a board member from Oklahoma City Public School, I-89. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you coming to talk to us about some of your thoughts and ideas about where we are in education. And I know that, one of the things that we are talking about here at CUBE with many people is what does equity mean? And what is, I guess I'm interested in, what does equity mean to you?
Yes. Again, yes, I served on this CUBE steering committee for 6 years, and so I rotated off. It's been 2 years ago, and that this really and truly was the place to where that I really got a grasp of what equity really is. Even in doing a workshop that we had as far as learning this work some 4 or 5 years ago, that in a group that there were several of us from different districts across the nation, and in coming together to try to even to form the equity policy for the National School Board Association. Well, in asking that question, well, there were so many different interpretations of what equity is. And so you've asked me what equity means to me. Equity means to me is that making sure that not only our students, but our staff as well, have access to whatever resources that they need in order to accomplish whatever goals that they set for themselves. It is vitally important when we're talking about equity in education and when we're talking about policy making that we really define what policy really is, and to have it really detailed to where that it does not come to the person that comes behind us to give their own interpretation of that.
Yes, yes.
And so oftentimes I think that can get lost, as we know with boards. Sometimes that I know in my tenure, and I'm the longest serving board member in Oklahoma City Public Schools at this time, and I have seen approximately 24 board members, come and go in my tenure.
How long have you been a member?
I've been for 12 years.
That is great. Thank you for serving.
And so in that situation, it's so vitally important to make sure that the policy it leaves no room for error. That we have it to where that the ones that come behind us will totally understand what the district's equity policy really means.
It's about accountability.
It's about accountability. Because again, that we get on the board for different reasons, and some are for children, some are for personal reasons, some are for political reasons. So it's vitally important that whatever that we are looking at, that we're making sure that it is for the district and not for personal gain.
Yeah, for the district, for the children, for the community, and really, again, talk about equity and equality are not the same thing.
Exactly. And this is what I often say, that equity aspires to be equal. And, once we acquire the equity that we are looking for, well, then equal will be in place, because now, and one of the things that my granddaughter, I was speaking with her yesterday, and we were talking about the different little images that they have with equity, and they have the one with the children standing at the fence line of a game. And so anyway, the equal is that everyone got the same boxes, and the tall kid, they could see even more over. And then it comes to the next part with the equity piece, and that is giving each kid the box that they need in order for them to accomplish to see the game. The last part that I really, really like is the liberation, is to where that we are now breaking down those barriers, those fences, to where everyone can see the same thing. That's where the equal part
comes in. You don't need the box then.
You don't need the box.
The fence is no longer there.
That's right.
To obstruct your view. Wow, that's a really great picture.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about how Oklahoma City is using the data to implement or try to acquire this equity that we're all after.
And I really and truly wish that we had, it's kind of one of these situations to where that with me sitting under the guidance of the National School Board's CUBE, and coming and learning from the different presentations from the great speakers that we have across this nation, and going back to Oklahoma City to my board, and for 4 years and fighting to be able to have this conversation and have a place at the table. And so even the policy, our first equity policy in the district was voted on in, it was November the 13th of 2017. And at that time, and I talked about the importance of making sure our policies are strong enough to where that they will withstand even our time there. The sad part is that I had to water down the policy in order to even to get it passed.
Boy, that happens a lot, doesn't it?
It happens a lot, and that's the part where, like I said, that we have to know what the purposes of people. So in that situation, it's one to where that sometimes I've gone back and forth with myself to say, well, Ruth, really, should you have really pushed further to get a true policy?
It's one thing to be able to, I mean, you have to compromise, right?
Yes.
As adults, we have to compromise,
Yes.
but what do you give up?
Well,
right? And is it worth the compromise?
Well, exactly, because really and truly what we really should have been talking about was racial equity in education. When we look at that, we are a district of over 83% students of color, and our board does not represent the students that we serve. And so even in that space, not really understanding that when we have, and the data that I have seen of the district at that point showed that it was over 50 plus years that black students has been underserved in education in our district. And so, but because of the fact, if I had used the approach of equity in racial equity in education, well, the first and foremost, you cannot fix what you cannot acknowledge. And although this has been on the table for 50 years, that this did not occur. So
you had to find the issue, put it on the table, and then, hey, let's discuss it.
And let's discuss it. And so anyway, I would sometimes be mimicked by some of my board colleagues to where and in particular the leader of the board, to say, well, Ruth can't say a whole sentence without using the word equity. Because I totally understand the importance of, it would change the trajectory in education as a whole for our children. If we would, I think of it like this. And I use a rubric that I've asked of my board, I've asked of my superintendent. I says the way that we can even gauge on if we're doing the right things for children is to say, would I like this to happen to my child? Would I like this to happen to someone I love?
Bring it home.
Would I like for this to happen to my community? And if the answer is no to any of those, then you know exactly what you're doing.
If it's not good enough for my child or my family, why is it good enough for your child?
Yeah.
That's understandable. That's a good way to take it, looking at it, for sure. So it really, we were talking about these issues. What do you think is the responsibility of the school board as it relates to the issues that we've been talking about? I mean, you kind of touched base a little bit on that. Was there any specifics that you think, okay, the school board should do this? And speaking to all the school boards, especially the urban ones in the nation, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
And I like that you just said especially the urban ones. Oklahoma City Public School, we are the largest school district in our state, and we are the largest urban school district in our state. Up until 2 years of being on the board and attending my first CUBE conference here in Atlanta, I never heard the word urban used in my district. And we know that you cannot fix what you cannot acknowledge.
Absolutely.
So in that situation is that one of the issues that we must do, first and foremost, acknowledge that there are some disparities.
Districts throughout the nation, whether you're a rural district or a suburban district or an urban district, they all have issues. They're not the same.
Well, when people think about the word urban, they automatically assign it to race, color, black and white, but it is not. You are looking at rural areas to where that you have white people who are economically disadvantaged. That's equity, is making sure that they get what they need as well.
They deserve the same quality education
exactly
as in the inner city.
Yes, because we have the issue sometimes, and when we're speaking of even with the white, and it happens with blacks as well, and I'm sure in all the other races, the haves and the have-nots. So in that situation, when we're looking at the haves and the have-nots, well then just take it away and to say we want to make sure everyone get even, and this is one of the ways that I had to even sell getting a policy was to say, well, and I had to go to some of the affluent schools in our district, and that who was already getting the supports because they had big pockets, fundraisers to get what they needed. So I had to sell to some of my colleagues to say, well, but they will be able to get, this. And so anyway, when the light bulb went off, the aha moment, okay, how can we? And now that we call this opportunity hoarding.
Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you coming to talk to us about some of your thoughts and ideas about where we are in education.